Yeah, so
Yes.
if they want the roof.
You lifted it, I saw the back.
That was like.
What's going on? Actually, Richmond.
Whenever you're ready, Richard.
Yes. I'd like to call to order the March 12th, 2024 regular meeting. I'd like to introduce the board. We have a regular member, Steve Bishkup, at the end. Bill Piggott, who's a regular member. Dennis Crow, who's a regular member. My name's Rich Gilbert. I'm a regular member and chairman. We have John Zire, who's a regular member, and we have Stella, who's an alternate. I'd like to remind all the applicants that 4 votes are needed for an application to be approved, which is a super majority. Any and all items used are exhibits and will be retained in the town file. After the applicant presentation is made, the board will ask questions we may have, and then the audience may ask questions if they have any. After the discussion, we'll ask for anyone to speak in favor of or against the application. Any presenters or audience members speaking are asked to give their full name and address the first time they speak, and then just their name on subsequent times. Once the application has been heard, we will close the public portion of the hearing and we'll go into deliberations. And at that time, no additional testimony to or from the audience or from the applicant can be taken. And then usually when we're finished, we'll take a motion right after our deliberations. Michelle, Ms. Zargo, would you like to read the? I'm sorry. Maria, I'm sorry. A little bit of stage fright there. Would you like to read the?
Sure, I can read the
application for
legal.
evening? Thanks.
Zoning Board of Appeals, meeting 8 Campus Drive, Madison, Connecticut, regular meeting, Tuesday, March 12th, 2024, 7 p.m. This meeting is a hybrid meeting in meeting room A at Town Campus and a Zoom online webinar. Applications this evening, 24-0155 Dublin Lane, AKA 51 East Street, Dudds Village. Map 31, Lot 45, Zone CR2, owner 5M Realty, applicant Robert and Patricia Sikorsky. Variance request to section 3.6 to allow a 20-foot rear yard setback where 30 is required. To construct a 15 by 28 open wood porch. Application includes a coastal site plan. Application 24-02, 16 Barbary Lane, map 29, lot 40, zone R4. Owner Eric Ratchman and G. Josepha Albanor. Variance request to section 3.6A to allow 28.9 feet front yard setback where 30 feet is required for proposed shed dormers, and section 3.8B to allow increased lot coverage to 2,119 square feet from the existing non-conforming lot coverage of 2,087 square feet for proposed energy efficient insulation upgrade applied to the exterior. Application also includes a coastal site plan.
Thank you, Maria. So I'd like to invite whoever's going to make the presentation for application 240155 55 W Lane.
Good evening, gentlemen and ladies. My name is John Matthews. I'm an architect with offices at 817 Boston Post Road, and I'm also a town resident. I've been retained to help my client to put an open porch over an existing deck on their cottage. What I would like to do, just real quick before we look at the details, is to, and I think I'll just help. I've made photographs of a ton of the cottages that are in Dudds Village, and they all have open porches. This cottage was rebuilt with a variance from this board, from the original one that was there, and it had a 14 by 28 foot patio in the back, but it's just an open patio. This lot fronts on Salt Meadow Park. As a matter of fact, the town did a survey that determined where the property line was. And our patio is 11 feet from the property line. So we want to put in 4 posts at the edge of the patio and put a roof coming out from the building to have a covered patio effectively. Their buildings down on the same property line. They're as close as 5 or 6 feet to the property line, actual buildings, not just porches. So we feel that what we're proposing, this is a view of the side of the house. And you can see to the right, Salt Meadow Park. And in Salt Meadow Park, there's a trail that is 30 feet from the property. So again, this is the back of the house. Here's the patio. And here's a view from the patio. You can see how the neighbors' houses and structures come up right up to the property line. So we feel in terms of the neighborhood that this is not something new here. Here's a shot of a house that has an open porch on the side. You can see it's like 6 feet off the driveway. These shots are taken from Salt Meadow Park. This is the trail, the hiking trail. That little pink building up there is our house. There's a closer up view. You can see how these other houses all come up really too close to the property line. So when this house was rebuilt, like 8 or 9 years ago, They put in these pier footings, then that was the house that was built. And then that was the patio they put in. So what we're looking to do is to put a post down up against the side of the house, and then post at the end of the patio. And then put this roof, simple shed roof that comes up. And it would have tongue roof, wood sheathing, so that would be left exposed under the ceiling of the roof. And there would be rafters, about 3 feet on the center, two by tens. And then the pressure treated posts would be clad in AZAC, so they would be finished with the This is a site plan. And that's the existing house there. This is B Street. There's a property line, and then there's the hiking path. So this is where the patio is. This is our 4 posts for the roof. And then it would go up on top of the existing roof. So the pitch of this roof, structurally, we're putting our structure above the existing roof because that is an insulated ceiling in the existing house. So this roof just comes over. So looking at it from the park, you can see the 4 columns, see the tails of these rafters, which we would put a little design on, and then that would be the slope roof going back. And so that's the total scope of the project. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So just one point in your photographs of the existing houses. You did say you took pictures of many houses and they all had those porches. Just for clarification, you mean all of the pictures you took all had those covered
Yes.
areas, but there are houses without.
Yeah, there are
Yes,
some
okay,
without.
yeah, just a clarification.
Yeah, but I'm saying
Right, it's not rare.
there's
Yeah.
quite a few.
There's quite a few. There are. Yeah, okay. And so, yeah, it's not an unusual request that I've seen them myself. I don't know how many actually go into the setback area. And I don't know if they were approved for that before building them, or if they were there before the zoning imposed the setback. That having been said, it's still,
Are we at the question portion?
I'm sorry?
Are we at the question portion?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
He asked me if we had any questions.
Okay, sure.
So but you don't know if any of those were pre-existing prior to the zoning or not, obviously, right?
I don't know. I mean, if you drive around there, those cottages have had a series of additions and tear downs, build up.
Some look brand new, some look
It goes
dilapidated.
back to the 30s. And the original Dutch village was there before there was even any zoning to start with. But it, over time, filled in.
Okay. That's the only question I have based on the plan.
The other point I'd like to make is, my client's wife is incredibly sensitive to the sun. And right now, she can't really sit out on that back patio because it's sun just beats and.
Okay, so that brings up the question of the application.
Right.
Which would, you indicated in the application that there was a hardship for that. Is anybody planning to present the application itself and the other papers that go with it?
Well, I mean, I think the application is pretty self-explanatory. There was a
Sure, can you go
whole
over it?
series of questions and there was an addendum and attachment to the application.
Sure, can we
It
go over it?
talked about the 3 items of hardship. If you'd like, I
I would like. Can we bring it up on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Have it here someplace. I might also add that all of those photographs that I showed you were attached to the original, to the application. So I can, if you like, leave it at an exhibit.
Okay, so it's on the screen. If you want.
It's on the screen now.
Okay, I can leave you an exhibit of those boards, just to put in the file. Okay. Well, I mean, I think, no, that's not, yeah,
That is.
yes, here it is. Yeah, there is an attachment to the application, which addressed item 8, legal hardship
Can we
question.
back up to the section 6?
Which questions? Okay. Yep, there you go.
So
Just-
that
just-
basically
This just described
what you
the
showed us.
project, which I've done.
Mhm. Okay, it appears no excavation or grading. Soil erosion, silt fence installed, maintained.
Right.
Okay, that's good. Okay, can we go to number 7?
We have a coastal site plan as well.
Actually, wanted to ask our zoning officer, Tola, about the zoning officer's interpretation of,
Yeah, I think he's gonna get to that.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
He wants, and then we could, yeah.
So the
Where did you want to go?
number 7.
Number 7?
Okay, so this is an area,
Number 7 is simply the section of the code 3.6, which requires a 30-foot rear yard. And we would have a 10-foot rear yard. So we're looking for a 20-foot variance to build a porch roof.
okay, that's the only variance you've requested.
That's the only one.
Okay. Shall we go to number 11?
Yeah, go back.
Go back.
Yeah. 8, okay.
That's the hardship.
There's an attachment that's attached to the application
Okay,
that has language for each one of them.
okay.
Okay, like I'll read them.
Right here.
It's got it here.
First of all, there was a little paragraph that talked about Dudge Village, 8.5 acre piece, east side of Dudley Lane. Has commercial uses, open space in Boston Post. It fronts on Salt Meadow Park to the east and DeSarbo's Village and Young's Village to the south. Many of the existing cottages in the 3 cottage complexes have open porches since they are mostly for summer occupancy. 51 East Street was built in 2009. It was rebuilt with a 14 by 28 foot concrete patio on the east side facing Salt Meadow Park. See, I didn't quite finish there, Marie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on.
The majority of the colleges on East Street facing Salt Meadow Park are non-conforming as to the 30-foot rear yard setback. Some of the cottages are as close as 6 feet, and that's the actual cottage, not a porch. I don't think there's any structure on the east side of East Street that meets the 30-foot rear property line.
Okay,
And in terms of the hardship, item 8, what conditions especially affect this parcel that do not affect the district in which it is situated? Dudge Village is part of a three cottage complex that was established before current regulations were established. The majority of the cottages in the three complexes do not meet current R2 zoning, family zoning. How will the little enforcement, these regulations result in exceptional difficulty or unusual hardship? This will prevent the owners from enjoying the outdoor setting without protecting them from excessive sun and rain that their neighbors enjoy. The two owners suffer with sensitive skin conditions that are the unsheltered open patio prevent them from enjoying because of its exposure to the sun. And then C, how will this variance be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the regulations? The proposed variance will permit the enjoyment of the existing cottage and open patio, much like a larger number of neighbors have. See the pictures attached. This area is in zone R2, single-family residential, which is totally non-conforming as to existing use, which was there before the current regulations were established. I mean, you could put probably 2 or 3 houses on this whole village to try to meet an R2 zone, which obviously is not going to happen.
Okay, so would we miss 9 and, is there anything in 9 and 10, or is that just?
9 was the previous variance.
Yeah, this was,
Yes, it's a coastal site.
this was
plan.
done in
Yeah.
2011. There's some conflict
Previous-
about the
okay.
dates on this. For them to demo the existing cottage and construct the new cottage. This was prior to my clients purchasing this. So one place it shows 2009, another place it shows 2011. So I don't know what the real answer is.
Okay,
They purchased it 6 years ago, but it is current condition.
all right, so then we go to the property. The coastal site plan is required, no, but it's not in floodplain, so we're okay.
Okay, so
Not watershed.
we have the site plan.
I have a question on the lot coverage.
We're just getting to that. We're just getting to number 14 here.
672. Proposed 875 per section 28 square of the zoning regs. Now, again, if you just look at the site plan, these are actually lease lots. You know, they're really aren't parcels, but in terms of dealing, we deal with it as if it were the actual lot. And those items that we see there are based on this, if in fact that was a lot. But the lot is the entire piece of
So. Go ahead, Bill. Yeah, he just basically introduced your subject right there.
The question I have is that you're gonna have a covered patio,
correct.
and that concrete patio now
Mm-hmm.
measures 15 by 28.
14 by 2.
Well, you say in your application 15 by 28. Right here.
That's an error. If you look at the plan, the plan clearly shows it.
All right. If I take the 14 by 28,
Correct.
so that comes out to 392 square feet.
Correct.
Now, if you add that to the 672,
Right.
now your proposed total or your lot coverage is 1,064.
Okay.
And the max allowed is 960.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that.
The max that you're allowed according to the tables is 960. So now you have a variance here,
So,
for which you haven't applied for.
So,
But the question is, what is the
Covered.
lot?
No. A covered patio, according to the regulations, counts towards square footage
Of coverage,
for coverage, as you just agreed.
right? If it's an open patio, it doesn't count at all.
That's right. So you have a covered patio, so the present is 672. And your covered patio now is 392. That's based on 14 by 28. So you add the 392 to 672. And if my math is correct, you come out with 1,064. And the max that you're allowed is 960, according to the lot area, or the lot, according to the fourth 4850. And if you look at the table,
well, I'm not sure you can go by the table in this instance because the whole property has different, it's one parcel, which is what he's saying, that this parcel isn't, it's not its own parcel. It's one parcel with multiple buildings. So I don't know if you can go by the table, but you're correct that there's an increase. He's going from 672 to 8. Well, this says 875. But I don't know if you can go by the table specifically in this instance.
well, then I guess,
Yeah.
the bottom line is,
And I don't,
has he exceeded the lot coverage with this new covered patio?
Is that the lot
well,
coverage or what?
there's a discrepancy in whether it's a covered porch, which is 50%, or a roofed patio, which is 100% coverage. But I think what Bill is saying is that there's an increase in coverage that wasn't asked for.
Right.
But if we were to call this a covered porch.
You'd have to count it as 50. I don't know how,
it would be
yes,
50%.
it would be 50% coverage, but you'd still have to ask for.
All right, so then what's the definition of a covered porch versus a patio? Now, my understanding, a patio is ground level,
Right, which it is
and a
today.
porch, which
So
this is.
a covered,
So the covered patio counts as coverage.
right, a porch is an outdoor area adjacent to a building or structure, typically with a raised platform with a fixed roof or a platform above, includes a roofed exterior landing. An open porch is a porch that is open air without screens or glassed in openings. So it has a platform with a roof, a patio, outdoor surface concrete or brick,
Yeah, but
basically on the ground, a roofed patio with a fixed roof. That counts as full coverage. An open porch counts for 50% coverage.
so who's to say you can't have a concrete floor in a porch?
Yeah, you can.
Well, by
But that
by virtue of
counts.
the definition that she read, if it's concrete patio and it has
It's a
covered,
concrete patio now, but once we put a roof over it,
it's a covered
it's
patio.
a roof porch.
No, it's
It's a
no,
covered patio.
it's
by
a
that
roof
definition.
patio.
There's, I
But here's,
respectfully disagree with
Okay,
that.
but
but here's the other side of things, which I think both of you have alluded to. And that's the fact that the lot coverage is not determined by one property, one building on that Guts farm. It's all the buildings combined. And I don't know how to deal with that.
I don't think that's a thesis project, which is way beyond the scope of dealing with a simple roof on a cottage.
Because if we don't know how to deal with that, then we don't know that he needs a variance, or it's either he doesn't need a variance for the lot coverage,
so did you
or he
want,
needs a variance, but he needs to do the thesis project.
do you have more questions? Richard, do you want to go for question, I don't want to sound like we're deliberating without being in deliberation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we have, we go to questions.
Just wondering if any of the neighbors have any comments on the proposed porch? Any of the neighbors have any comments on the proposed porch?
Not that I'm aware of, but if you look at all those pictures, some have floors, some have patios. Combination. It's not consistent.
All right, I took a look at it today. I can see the various additions that have been added to the various homes, but this seems like a fairly modern structure.
I mean, this
Yeah.
particular, well, it was built to meet building code stuff, where all those other cottages, none of them would pass any kind of building code if they had to.
So nobody said, oh, he,
But, and again, I wasn't involved when they tore this down and built it up. That was sort of the impression that they rebuilt on the existing footprint of what was there before. But I don't know, there's no records around it.
So did the letters go out to the neighbors?
Yes,
And you got no responses? Did we get any responses?
No. No,
Right.
and there's nobody online.
yeah, we had a sign, but we met all
Okay,
the requirements.
it's on the sign.
Does anyone on the board have any other questions before we ask the audience? Does anyone on the board have any additional questions before we?
I got one more.
Oh, sure.
Murray,
Mhm.
on the application, you know, where I based my opinion on, I based it on the 4,850 feet for the lot area. Now, you're saying that's, maybe it's not correct?
Oh, you mean by the chart? I'm sorry.
On the
Oh, you went,
application,
but, yeah, okay.
is that correct?
That,
Somebody,
if that's the whole parcel, that's the whole,
That's what they have leased from Dodd's Village. But they don't own that.
so they owe the 4,000, that's his portion. Is that what you're saying?
It's a land
That's
lease.
a-
Land lease, yeah.
That's a land lease that he has with Dodd's Village.
all right, so the lot is 4,850 feet.
Yeah,
All right,
His
This-
leased
that's
portion
this.
is,
that's this,
yeah,
but the whole lot is
It's
this.
just that.
That's,
all right.
that's the legal,
Right. That's the quandary we have.
yeah.
So you're saying that if you base the lot coverage, you can't base the lot coverage on that 4,850 feet?
Yeah,
Catch 22.
Huh?
It's the, either use the whole thing or you use each one separately.
And that's the
Right.
quandary, Bill, if we use the whole thing, they don't even need to be here,
They do for the setback.
setback,
for the setback, sorry.
where he needs to be here, and he needs to have the owner of the whole property come in and
Right.
ask for a variance for, and explain the whole package. So,
so from experience in general, the whole lot itself is probably entirely over on coverage. By the time you take the lot and add up all the cottages on it.
And the road too.
Most people, depending if they're rebuilding, they'll build in the same footprint. Because that's allowed to do if they demo it and build it in the same footprint. This previous cottage did ask for an increase in coverage when they rebuilt, of 81 square feet. They demoed a shed on the property and added that into the rebuilding of the cottage in order to get an increase in coverage last time.
Okay.
So if you're trying to increase coverage, you should ask in coverage. If you're trying to ask, setbacks or increase, which is what he's asking for, is setback. It depends on, what they're doing, what they ask for. But as a whole, that one portion, that whole property, the town sees it as a whole. We don't recognize the individual lots. It's hard to.
Interesting.
So that's why the chart doesn't necessarily, and if someone's building something bigger in its place, then that's something that usually gets asked for in a variance.
I mean, we could put fern strips over the
Right.
patio and put a deck on it, then it's a porch. But why bother to do that?
That's kind of my notes here. If you just built a raised patio and it would qualify based on that, so. It'd be-
Rather ironic that if you add more to it, it reduces your coverage. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So any questions from the board?
We're gonna have public.
So this time, any questions from the public? Yes, please.
Russell Campaign, 131 Boston Street, Guilford. I had a situation with a similar question, and it was interpreted that a roof patio was separate from the building and a porch was attached to the building. That was the previous, John Delora gave me a.
Right.
I can't hear you.
That he defined a porch as a roof attached to the building and a roofed patio as not being part of the building, like a detached
Interesting.
structure, like gazebo, or, because they have gazebo, which is detached, but that has a floor, but it's not attached to the building. So that was the delineation that was the conclusion on another project that I worked on. This was 6 years ago that it was concluded that way, which seems somewhat logical from what you're saying, that the floor or no floor doesn't really have an impact on whether or not it's attached to the building or not attached to the building, was the way it was interpreted before. And it's from this.
Actually, that floor is, in this case, is not attached to the
So
building.
can I just ask,
Well, the roof.
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So if you're considering it an open porch, does it count for coverage?
It would be 50%, because it's an open porch, not screened.
And if you were asking for coverage of at least 50% more than what's existing,
Is that the case? Is it? If it's,
he's increased his coverage from 672 to 875 is the proposed lot coverage
Uh-huh.
now.
but the allowed lot coverage, I thought was over 1,000.
But
No, not the allowed. No, I think it was 1,000 if you counted it 100%. Correct me, is that what
Yes.
you were saying?
yes,
Counted it 100%. So
it's over
If it's a
1,000.
patio.
If you counted as 50%, it's what, 875?
So right, okay, so the determination would be whether you're counting it as a roof patio
Or a porch.
or an open porch.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you add more, you can make it smaller.
As long as it's,
As long as it's an open porch.
Well, why don't we
as
hold
long as
the,
it's a porch.
let's hold the discussions for
For the discussion,
deliberations.
yeah.
Does anybody else from the audience like to speak for or against or have questions? Any further questions, from the, anybody in the audience? Maria?
There
wants to-
is no one online.
Oh,
No one wants to watch us tonight.
So I guess the real question is, can you have an open porch with a concrete floor? I'd say you can.
It's with a roof.
No, that's not the question. The
According
question
to
is,
the
if you have an
regs, it is.
open porch, what kind of floor can you have? There's no rules that say what the floor of the open porch can be. It can be concrete. And then if you figure that, then we're fine.
But if you look at section 2.8 in the regs, it says a roofed patio. And the coverage of that roof patio, roofed, you add the coverage.
Right.
And
But as long as you call it a patio, if you call it a porch, and that's
it's
not.
not a porch, sir. It's a patio. I'm
It
just,
is
I'm just
today.
going by the regulations here. And that's all. I don't mean to argue with you. I'm just looking at the regulations. And this patio is not, and this concrete slab is not attached to the house. So it qualifies as a patio. You're putting a roof on the patio.
Yeah.
And according to section 2.8, roofed patios, the coverage counts toward the total coverage.
Right.
And if, and going by your application, that means you've exceeded the max lot coverage on that lot. Now, I know there's a question now.
Yeah, we'll talk
On
about
the
that.
lot sizes, which we can talk about.
So that does offer the we could perchance offer the opportunity, if you wanted to postpone deliberations on this until, say, next month, if you wanted to reconsider whether or not you apply for that second variance, and just consider it an open patio or a covered patio. That's one option.
Maria, is that an option? it-
If you, it would, I guess it could be, it's just I don't know whether you want to talk about it or don't, I mean,
Could we take a 2-minute break and let me speak with my client
Sure.
about this?
Yeah, motion for, do we want to break it? We wanna- So. We'll just keep the meeting open.
Yeah, keep it. Let them come in and tell us if they want to reconsider.
Is everybody signing over
So
this,
Maria, if we
this is
just-
a Board of Assessment Appeals.
over there?
Yeah, they're signing into
So
the,
Maria, sorry.
the scheduled hearings.
So just for clarification, they decided they wanted to add the lot coverage to their application. Can we postpone it, or do they have to, we have to rule and they do a brand new one?
You can make a motion to continue and then
He could
yeah, we
modify
can
his application.
modify.
Or maybe we could say the application is incomplete. And then say, we can't
Why
vote
can't
on
you-
it because it's an incomplete
Why don't you just wait
application.
to have, see what he wants to do and then have a discussion?
Okay, let's see what the applicant
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you. Yeah, I don't know
If the application is,
well, then you can reject.
that's what I'm saying, exactly.
So my client would like to have you guys make a decision on the application and submit it.
I'm sorry, what was that? I didn't,
Like to have you make a decision on the application as submitted, whether you approve it or disapprove it. or-
okay. Any other final questions? Okay, I'd like to motion to move to deliberations. Close the public portion of the meeting. I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, who wants to start?
Well, I'll start.
Sure.
Since I'm the one that brought up this thing about I think the application should include a request for the variance on the lot coverage. And by not seeing that in the present form of this application, I guess you could call the application incomplete. So my feeling would be I would not approve.
Stephen?
I think, there's two things to look at. One, I think we can say there's a lot of gray area here. And I don't think, as a board, we can make a decision on the gray area of what is considered lot coverage. I would with the application, and I would move to either approve the coverage or not.
I'm sorry, you say would,
I would move to just discuss the setback versus the grade.
and
I mean,
then,
every time something comes up in this village, there's nothing in that village that has ever conformed.
so,
So are we really being really nitpicky, or can we really say, okay, there's a hardship here? Lot size is small, buildings are small. What's the difference between a patio and a porch? Raised this and now a porch. Yeah. So is the lot really the lot that's number 15, or is it really just this one little square area here? So I would, in my opinion, waive that part of the equation and just simply say, do you want to approve the setback?
setback. So that would leave it to the zoning enforcement officer to make determinations as to whether or not they could build,
And we have to,
no?
Yeah, whatever you.
Whatever.
Well, if we granted just the variance that was applied for,
Mhm.
and said, well, you have a variance for that. But then does that grant them the ability to build with those other things undefined? Or does that go to?
That's it's your decision. It's your decision. Personally, I mean, what, I can give you how I interpret it, but, it's your
Yeah,
decision. What do you ask?
asking is,
Yeah.
is would that then bounce it back
Yeah,
into your
no,
court?
it's the variance would be granted.
That variant,
Yeah.
one variance would be
Mhm.
granted.
I understand what you're saying, Bill. Application could be incorrect. On the other hand, I understand Steve's opinion as well, so I think we should grant the variance and perhaps readdress the rest of the application, which would mean, I don't know what that means.
how about you, Dennis?
So I have an inclination to agree with Steve. I'm just fearful we're kicking the can down the road on all of these additional changes that happen in the Dud's Farms, whatever those three complexes are. And I don't know if it just becomes a dense packed.
It's still, it's always been a never ending story there. There's nothing that's come in that is not 5 or 6 variants. And, it's just, I personally think part of our mission is not necessarily to go strictly by the rules, but to interpret what's right and wrong.
I understand that. I'm just saying, I don't know if we're doing ourselves any favor by kicking the can down the road on the overall perspective of how we deal with Dudley, village, Dudley Farm, whatever.
It's unique.
So I mean, I agree with the hardship idea. I agree with, I tend to agree with Bill that the application is incomplete, and we have an opinion from our zoning officer that the interpretation is that should count to coverage. That's not negating their hardship. It's just means the application is incomplete. That's all. So that's kind of where I am. And it's not trying to be nitpicky or anything. It's just, in my opinion, we should have a complete, accurate application. So when they build, there's no question they can do what they want, build their covered porch, and that's why they came back and added that lot coverage. In the future, then we could revisit it again, but. Makes sense. So, someone wants to make a motion, we can We can try to settle with that, unless you guys want to keep talking about it.
Okay. I move we,
It's gonna be,
and
they're all gonna be unique. They
the
are.
deliberations and return to the meeting.
I will second that. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Someone want to make a motion then?
Well, I'll make a motion based upon the information in the application as far as the setback and also the lack of information based upon the lot coverage. I would vote not to approve the application.
Wait, what's the motion? Make the motion without telling us how you vote.
I make a motion therefore that we vote no on the application.
Based on this lack of information.
Yeah, based on the lack of information in the application and the increase in the lot coverage, which is not applied for in the application.
Anybody want a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Did you-
I'm fair.
Okay, so there's 4 in favor and 1 opposed.
Thank you for your deliberation.
Thank you. So I'd like to call who's going to present for application 240216 Barbara Lane.
Good evening, I'm Russell Campaign. I'm with,
Oh,
yeah.
We still have to deny, the site plan. You have to prove or deny the most.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just, you just make a motion to
Even though we didn't have the,
make it,
okay.
But without prejudice.
yeah, without prejudice.
So
You have to act on our coastal site plan.
Yes, yeah, he's gonna, right now.
you want to bring it up on the,
No, I'd like to make a motion and based on the denial of the application, we're going to deny the coastal site plan without prejudice. Hold on a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? So that was unanimous.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
all right, Russ.
I'm sorry, Mr. Campaign.
Yes.
Yeah. if you'd like to- sorry about that.
So Russell Campaign with CK Architect, 131 Boston Street, I'm here with Josefa, the applicant, and I think Eric was. Okay, so Eric Rashman is not in attendance.
He's here, he's here.
Oh, he's here, good,
Yep.
all right. So, we've been working, to, do an extensive renovation and upgrade to the existing, property at 16 Barbary Lane, which was, built in 1954. And we're asking for, very small variances associated with our proposed work. The first is associated with the front setback. If we could bring up the, drawings, that would be good. Site plan first.
Second.
Site plan.
We're getting there. Nope, we're not. Hold on.
So one of the peculiarities of this that the code actually defined in the last major update was a garrison colonial, which had a cantilevered second floor. It's a typical sort of early detail where the second floor is closer to the road than the first floor. That was defined and actually this house is built that way, was defined in the new codes. It used to be that it was measured to the face of the building, and now that extra cantilever is counting toward the front setback in the way it was defined in 2012. But the house predates zoning, so it is a pre-existing non-conforming situation. Actually, if you could go to my site plan, that would be good. It's the second page. So the existing footprint is not changing. We are proposing two sort of raised terraces sort of on these front sides, but they're lower than 18, so they don't count toward any of the setbacks. And we do have some pergolas that are open count toward setback as well. The front does count toward open porch setback, which we're meeting. So the only place that we're looking and having a variance associated is a 1.1 foot setback that's associated with the front setback. So the existing cantilever on the second floor is 28.9 feet from the road. It has a very low eave spring height, so the windows are down low on that second floor and there's not headroom along that front side. So we're proposing to, just where we have windows, kick up the dormer about 18 inches in those locations. If you could go to the dormers, that would be helpful. I think it's like the 5th page. So here you can see the side. So the existing roof line comes down at this angle, and that has, in the second floor, doesn't have room for a normal height window in those fronts. And so we are proposing to, just at the dormer locations, kick that roof up. And since we're making that roof eave a little higher within that non-conforming front setback, we're before you in order to receive a variance. Now, I think it's a practical hardship associated, because structurally, because that's cantilevered, it's difficult for us to have the dormer set back on the roof and not have that load path go down to the existing cantilevered area where it is. And the other practical hardship is that those windows are down low and can't be sized to have an egress size window. We're doing enough work in this existing house to require us to meet those new code requirements. So that's the first variance associated with the front setback. The second variance is associated, we're doing a high enough renovation that we're in a category 3 level of renovation into in the building code. And that, under the new energy code, requires us to meet the current energy code requirements. Now, the house is constructed in 54, so it's 2x4 construction. We can't physically get enough insulation into the walls to meet the code requirements now. So we really can either put it inside and fur out all the walls, or we can put it outside. And outside allows us to put continuous insulation around, so it has a much higher R value. It's not all the bridging of the studs that you have. So it's a much better, just like a jacket solution. And yet, the way that the definitions are, that extra 2 inches of foam that we're putting to the outside is counting towards our lot coverage. And so there's 32 extra square feet. That's just the perimeter of taking the finishes out that 2 inches to accommodate that exterior insulation. And that is incorporated into our front setback request as well. That 2 inches is accommodated within what we've asked for. So again, this is, I think, a practical hardship associated with meeting building code, which has recently evolved. It was last October that this new energy code was put in place. And I think you'll be seeing more of these because it's the correct thing to do as far as correcting these old homes that don't have the ability to fit the insulation in their existing walls. I will also say that many jurisdictions, Guilford being one of them, has actually accommodated this as a building feature, an architectural feature. So you're up to 6 inches of exterior foam is allowed by right to accommodate this, because so many requests for variance were coming in. So I don't know if you have any other particular questions, but I think we have a pre-existing nonconformity. These are practical difficulties that are looking, and really the requests are de minimis. They're not really requesting anything that's going to increase the usability or really in any practical way. I think that you can also address this, that we're not increasing livable area as far as the living space. We're compliant with regard to floor area anyway. So we're within the ranges there. We're not having to seek any variances associated with it. So it's not really something that is being leveraged in a way that I think is not just the minimum necessary to alleviate the hardships that we're facing associated with the existing building, and that it predates zoning.
Okay. So, Campaign, while you're reviewing, would you mind reviewing the coastal site plan?
Sure. Yeah, well, do we close and start again, or do
Before
we?
we do that,
Yeah,
can we go through the application?
Yeah,
And just, step
yep,
through?
absolutely.
I promise not to be.
I got a hammer.
Yeah, we just got a gavel now, watch out. Get to the good parts.
Yes, sure. So this is a description that I went through. We've met actually with Aaron and Maria as far as the compliance of the other aspects of the application. So we're pretty certain there's no conflicts, that we don't need additional variances associated. The two were identified. And it is a 1954 Garrison, as I explained, which predates the zoning.
It's fine, it's fast as I can.
So the two variance requests are are 3.6A and 3.8B. The first being A, which is associated with our current setback, given the cantilever of the garrison is 28.9, where 30 is required. And so we're staying within that existing nonconformity, but just adding a little bit of height in order to have dormers and egress windows on the second floor. And then here, it's just because of the practical constraint of the existing construction of the envelope, this is adding those 32 square feet basically between what we have, which was granted actually under a variance that was given. John Matthews sought that variance, but we're asking for slightly more in order to do that. The other existing variance was received was 20-foot setback actually that didn't define open porch because it was actually prior to the last zoning, which I could leverage, but I don't want to. I think it's better to reset the mark here with a new variance associated with the new zoning, because that was when the whole southern area, everything was in nonconformity before the new zones were added. So I think it doesn't really apply here, but there was a granted 20-foot setback, which didn't define porch or building, but and that's, I think, that. And I went through the, as far as the conditions that are specific to this parcel, it's more about the house being built and its location is specific to this lot. And why we're facing the constraints, the literal enforcement of the regulations. Again, this is just a practical difficulty that we're facing, that it would really compromise the livability and co-compliance of the house in a way that would make it much harder for us to execute this renovation. And there are benefits, I think, to the town that we're bringing forward with the ability to upgrade the house. And then the front setback is in harmony. It really isn't a major change in the overall. Most of the other houses have full second stories. They're not partial second stories. It's not like it's in a small low neighborhood. It has other homes of full height, and we're still actually well below the limits of what are allowed height-wise within the district. So these are the two variances that were received. One for 14.89 was received in 99 and 98. I'm not sure why they were two different years. And then it does say allow 20-foot front yard. And again, this was before front porch, open porch was defined, but it's not really under this particular code because it was predating that in 99. Site plan were required, the coastal site plan, because we're having a hearing. No municipality changes. And then the statistics sort of show the increase here. And then you can see here our total and average building height is over 10 feet below what the 8 feet on average and 10 feet on overall. So we're already lower. So the dormers really from a presentation are not going to increase the bulk of the house from the street.
And that's it.
Great.
Okay. Great. The coastal site plan probably after that.
So for the coastal site plan, we received a DEP review letter today, this afternoon. I'm not sure if you saw that, but basically they said we're not increasing any lot coverage or impervious surface, so it was pretty minimal. I mean, we are going to put in the patio areas and landscape features. We're going to do utilities to the pole for underground, and we're going to move a septic tank in order to meet our 5-foot setback off of our rear terrace area. So those are very localized disturbances. The rest of the landscaping and lawn will stay intact. It's probably 500 or 600 feet to the tidal marshes on the Hammonasset side. Where am I? I'm sorry, on the Hammonasset side, with 2 roads and multiple lots between, and we're probably 700, 800 feet to the open water, again, over a lot of roads and others. It's a fairly level area. We're not in a FEMA flood zone. I think it's just getting caught in this, not because we're having a public hearing. We have a coastal site plan review by the way the regulations work. I think, as far as silt fencing and other things along those lines, I mean, we'll protect any stockpiled and, during that, but it's very minimal. It's mostly landscape improvements. It's not really, going to have an open site for the whole period of construction. It
So
just
the
doesn't
only
look
digging
like
you're doing is for the septic tank?
that. So we'd like to do underground for utility, so there'll be a trench. There is a patio in the front and a patio in the back, or a raised terrace in the back. Those will just have, excavation for putting in the open porous stone because they're pervious. This exists, it's open stone. This exists, it's open stone. So those are currently pervious and will remain pervious. And then it's just landscape and little bedding and some landscape improvements. And the septic tank, which exists in this location right here, is going to get moved over to here. So, and sort of upgraded. The field is in good operating order and is not going to get replaced and is adequate for the size of the building.
Okay.
So it's just the tank move.
So it's just.
Yep. So I think it's really a pretty minimal and fairly easy for us to control the site. We have an existing drive for a track pad. It's an existing gravel driveway, so that will be our site access. Are there any particular questions? I didn't get an engineer involved because it didn't seem like it rose to that level that we needed.
Any other questions?
On the underground services mentioned in the coastal site plan, was that part what you were talking about, underground utilities?
Yeah, just from the pole that's on our property right here, it's going to be an underground trenching to remove the overhead. We likely will actually capture a couple of our roof leader areas and put a dry well in as well. We aren't increasing our impervious surface, but I think we kind of want to hold that option just from there's some patio areas and some other things that probably that'll be the easiest approach. But again, I'd like to keep the option of the scope of that to our, so we'll, if anything, be reducing the amount of impervious coverage with subsurface. But right now, the drainage, basically, there's a stone area over here, and the roof drainage comes off into the yard in these areas. And that, again, we're not increasing any roof area in our application. So.
Sure. I guess I just asked a question I'd like to ask most applicants. So say your variance wasn't granted, how would that affect your ability to do what you want to do here?
Well, first with the setback variance, we would have to work within the headroom constraints that we have on that second floor and, have lower windows and sort of work through where our egress in those locations would be for sizing a window that would be appropriate. So I think, it would probably, the solution would not be as good as what we're able to accomplish with the small dormers that we're proposing. If we had to set them back 1 foot up the roof in order to meet the setback, again, the roof would break the window, so they probably would be high dormers up in those rooms. I don't think the appearance of the house would be as good as what we have, and there would be structural challenges. It would be more expensive to accomplish. As far as the insulation, I think we'd have to, infill basically all of the exterior walls. We'd have to fur in everything all the way around the whole interior of the house, which is obviously a lot of work and a lot of loss of usable space and would have impacts on doors and where things resolve, so that we wouldn't be able to have the same flow as what we have in the design, where we're able to keep the wall thickness, the structural thickness, the same and not have to come inboard. I also think that the actual performance of the house would be greatly diminished because the exterior insulation is continuous. There's no compromise with studs, whereas if you do anything on the inside, you have to have surface to put your drywall on, so you have to have furring everywhere to sort of pack everything out. So that's the sort of results would be that it would really diminish the efficiency of the building, and I think compromise its usability in a way with, I think, when weighed against the small request for what impact it would have on the exterior, I think the conclusion is that it's a practical hardship being solved, and the request is very minimal from what we're asking for as relief.
Okay. That's all I have.
Dennis, do you have anything? Bill, Steve, anybody online? Maria?
Just Eric, I allowed him to talk, but Yeah.
Anybody else from the?
Not everybody at once?
Man, would you like? You're okay, all right. So, any other final questions, comments?
I move that we go into deliberations.
I second that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Who wants to start? Steve?
I mean, I don't see, it's kind of like proving what they're doing is consistent with the neighborhood. I think being penalized for adding installation. It shouldn't be a penalty. And I'm in favor.
I would be in favor of it also. I think you might be able to say that this is an intensification of the use. Zach's case,
Because of adding,
well, Zach's case says intensification of use, a non-conforming may be intensified if the current use remains consistent with the original
Right.
use.
and the intensification is getting a little more usable space up there
Yeah.
where the dormers are.
Well, not only that, the problem is that the town requires more insulation.
I'm sorry?
Town requires ours, whatever it is. 64,
Yeah.
whatever.
But he's saying that the intensification is really the increased use of space in the, where the dormers are.
Yeah, and
Which
you
is-
can also, and you can also say that this is kind of an unusual hardship because he has to meet structural requirements
Yeah.
that are now pertaining to the town building codes.
Yeah.
So there's two things that we're in favor of.
I agree. I think he's demonstrated hardship for both variances and I agree with you.
Yeah, I agree with everything's being said here and I support it. Okay.
Yeah, and I agree with what the commissioner said as well.
I move that we end the deliberations and move back to the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
So I'd like to make a motion then to grant for application 2402 to grant a variance to 3.6A to allow 28.9 front yard setback, and for section 3.8B, increase the lot coverage to 2,119 square feet. And as a hardship, we're going to cite that the property was existing, it's pre-existing pre-existing nonconformities, and the changes are in harmony with the neighborhood. And we also find that the coastal site plan is consistent with the goals and policies of the Coastal Management Act. Mouthful. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Congratulations.
Regarding that community that's shared land ownership, you
Yeah.
might want to look, Guilford has Leeds Island, which is a common ownership. And everything there is done through a special exemption, which doesn't have a hardship requirement. So they have language, Aaron would be familiar with it, so it actually is written up to categorize that as a special
The
permit.
zoning laws
The
have.
zoning laws doesn't ask for variance, it asks for special exemption, well, special permit in Guilford, special exemption here, but that gives a lot more flexibility,
That would.
and you wouldn't see them, the planning and zoning would see them.
Right.
Biggest
Well,
benefit.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Coastal site plan.
We-
Get over it.
That's part of my motion.
He presented it all and we
Oh, you
motioned
did
it
the
all.
same
Yeah,
motion.
we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. I missed out.
Good, thank you.
And I voted for it. I didn't know what it was.
Can I get a motion I'd like to put a motion to approve the January 9th, 2024 meeting minutes.
I'll move, so move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Need a second.
Oh, sorry, second.
Oh, second.
All in favor?
Wait, don't yet, don't close the meeting yet.
Oh,
I won't, any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous for whoever's
Minutes.
taking minutes. Sorry. Go ahead, Maria.
When we started the meeting, we whistled past the election of officers. Do you want to do that now?
Yeah, we can do that first. I thought we
Yeah, I thought we
did
did.
the
that.
chair, we need a vice chair, because
Oh, that's
Jason resigned,
Jason's gone.
Yeah.
so. Any volunteers? Steve, John,
Jan,
All right, if you want me to do it, I'll do it.
all right,
So wait, was that,
I'd like to nominate.
was that a
I'd
motion?
like I'd like to nominate.
I don't know if it was a motion.
vice chair? I will second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bill's.
Congratulations, Bill.
Don't you be vacant at any meeting. I'll kill you.
I get
If
to
you
bang
can
this
tell
again.
me.
Motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, hold on.
All in
let me,
favor? Aye.
um,
Oh,